This video is called Katie Hopkins, How Cancel Culture, and then in brackets, evisceration really works. So I don't expect this to have anything to do with the fact we got her cancelled on a music festival this week, but it is some mad timing. This came out yesterday or something, right? Katie Hopkins talking about how cancel culture works. So, yeah, let's see what she got to say, huh?
I thought it'd be great to explain how cancel culture really works,
or
in my case, complete evisceration. And this relates to what's currently being done to GB News by those that want to see it done away with. So when people speak about cancel culture, it kind of...
Okay, it's about GB News, yeah? All right, so it's not about the music festival we got you dash away from, but someone in the comments, Raw Music Productions, big love, glad I'm home from work for the live, great content, much love. Yes, Raw Music, love that, man, love that energy. You're here, luckily, because this was, like, I wasn't even planning to do a live, this is mad random. Johnny Combs said the blonde British Sarah Palin. I'm going to show something else after, actually, because there's something hilarious where she's being called the Mother Karen at this other event that's called Karen's Cafe. And I realised that's actually the truth. They're promoting it like that, but she's literally a Karen, isn't it? She's like #1 Karen. Anyway, let's just pull up a little and see what she got to say.
People speak about cancel culture, it kind of annoys me because it sounds so polite.
Me too.
Oh, cancelled. You know, that's for someone that maybe had one event cancelled, or, you know, they were uninvited from something, or they weren't invited in the first place. You know, people speak about that. Oh, I've been cancelled. And that really is just like dipping a toe in the ocean in terms of what happens when you are completely eviscerated. And that's happened to me on a number of occasions, each one adding to the sum total of being completely eviscerated from the face of the planet, including...
So she thinks she's been completely eviscerated. That's very interesting, yeah? Because if you've been completely eviscerated, why are they booking you at music festivals for us to even manage to get you banned? Yeah, shout out Bad Slave, man, like Terror Slim in the building. Like, how are you even getting a booking? How have you still got a huge YouTube channel with a huge following of racists? Like, you can't be cancelled. You can't be eviscerated because we live in a racist country. I get all the hate on my channel. I'm more being cancelled. I'm being cancelled because the actual public and the system of programming into the minds of British and Western people has already been designed to cancel everyone who challenges you. So you're not being cancelled. I'm being cancelled.
You know, continents from which I'm banned. So let's just say, let's not make this about me, but let's make this about GB News. Okay.
I missed obviously how that sentence joined, but she said she's banned from some continents. I don't know if anyone can quickly Google what continent she's banned from and let me know in the comments. That would be helpful because, yeah, that's interesting if she's banned from continents. Can they ban her from this continent as well, please?
GB News are here, and the idea is, from those that want to control the news agenda and the messaging that goes out, that GB News needs to be got rid of because it's not towing the line, it's not saying the same stuff as everybody else, and it's not necessarily perceived by the intellectual elite, you know, as intellectually stimulating enough. It's far too Daily Mail. Well, who gives a shit? If ordinary people want to watch it or someone wants to look at it, who cares? Who cares? It doesn't matter what you think people should be listening to. Ordinary people should be allowed to listen to what the bloody hell they like. Who cares whether you agree or I agree? People should do what they want. People should be free to do what they want. Let me not go off on one. So if you want to get rid of GB News, the first thing you do, and I know this because this was me.
I don't know if anyone wants to get rid of GB News. Do I want to get rid of GB News? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I kind of agree with that. Have your stupid news channel that fails and that only idiots watch. Like, I don't know. Let me know, innit? If I don't know, maybe I got to look into it more. If anyone is trying to even cancel GB News,
has been me, is repeatedly me. It is your evisceration. Firstly, you go for the advertisers, and this is a well-tested system. So you know that what happens is there's a campaign against anybody advertising on the channel, and you go onto Twitter, and then one by one you pick off the organisations, you tweet them. Are you happy to be?
Yeah. Okay. For example, like what's happened with Palestine recently, right? Not just because me and Terra had this whole thing on the timeline a minute ago about that either, but yeah. boycotts to McDonald's and to Disney and all these kind of things with Palestine recently. That's what she's talking about. That's what she's kind of referring to. But guess what? Good. That's called accountability. It's not cancel culture. It's called, hey, we won't buy your products if we don't agree with how you're moving. That's how capitalism works. Yeah, these lot are supposed to be pro-capitalist and they're calling us communists for doing this kind of thing. But actually, no, that's capitalism. She said a minute ago that people should be free to do what they choose. Yes, I should be free not to support a company that supports a business and a TV channel and a war and things that I just think are politically and morally wrong. This woman is so stupid.
Associated with this, you go for the CEO of the advertisers, you go for the exec board of the advertisers, you go for anybody linked in any way to the advertising companies, and then once you manage to get one to pull, then you say, oh well look, Nike's just made the right decision, why don't you make the right decision? So the advertisers are an easy, well-tested route for getting rid of either people or entire channels. The next thing is things like Ofcom, which is what you're seeing right now. With GB News, a repeated war of attrition. You just keep trying to get an Ofcom complaint to stick. You just keep trying to get an Ofcom complaint to be investigated. That's boring for the channel. It costs time, legal advice, money. You know, it's time consuming and it's obnoxious and it detracts from the ability to do what is the core focus of your business. So the Ofcom weapon is very effectively used. It was used against me at the Daily Mail, it was used against me at LBC, and there's very powerful...
Look, I don't really know what the fuck she's talking about here, innit? But what I will say is Ofcom is there to regulate, right? I doubt I trust Ofcom in any kind of serious way. I'm not down with Ofcom like that. I think Ofcom probably allow way too much right-wing propaganda. I think Ofcom probably allow way too much racism and Islamophobia on our mainstream TV. I think Ofcom are very much probably on their side, and I think she's chatting absolute rubbish to even suggest that Ofcom are against them in any kind of way. But that's just my natural feelings. I don't know what she's saying Ofcom have been getting onto them for, but if Ofcom have got onto them about certain content, or people are reporting to Ofcom to get onto them about certain content, guess what? That's how the world works too. That's how things have to be held accountable. We have laws, we have structure in a society, yeah? So I don't know what the hell these lot are talking about yet again.
For people who are very well connected at Ofcom's highest level, who can have cosy little dinners and strongly advise that Ofcom definitely investigates this. You can see how all that happens. Next up is guests. So what you do, forgive my writing, guests. You get guests. So on an LBC type programme, a phone-in programme, GB News, you get people to sign up to say they won't go on the show. We won't go on the show, we won't go on. Look at all the 80 of us have signed this list to say we won't appear on it because it's just so terrible. Will you join us? Will you be part of us? We can invite you to other things, we'll reward you. Maybe you'd like a little invite to dinner at Sophie's house.
What I find interesting is she's not actually saying that this has happened to GB News or not. She's being very vague. She's having a vague rant about what could happen. And again, she started this by saying people should be allowed to do what they want. And then she's gone off to list all these things that people doing what they want or don't want, and she's got a problem with them doing what they don't want and do want.
House on Friday. Would you...
Anyway, shout out to Johnny Combs. He said, that's why I bought 3 bad slave beanies. Yeah, because you liked the ethos of the company you was buying from. Yeah? You know what I'm saying? If Terror Slim was out here supporting genocide in Gaza, I'm sure you wouldn't have bought those beanies. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I will not buy a bloody Katie Hopkins tour ticket.
You like to sign up to say you will not be a guest on the show. And that's precisely the tactic that The Guardian, James O'Brien and others used against me at LBC, was to get political guests to say they would not appear on LBC radio as a whole until I was removed as a producer. And from the boss's perspective, you can't risk losing all your guests if you rely on political commentary to keep yourself alive. Okay. So the guest is the next thing.
At least she gave an example of something happening there.
What you can also do, if you are a lone voice in a sea of lefties, for example, which I have always been, is...
This idiot. I don't know how I'm going to get much through this video because I have to keep stopping it. A lone voice in a sea of lefties. Where is the sea of lefties? We don't have any sea of lefties anywhere in the mainstream media in the UK. They don't exist.
You get the other presenters on board. So I don't know that this necessarily happens on GB News, but you see how divide and conquer. Well, you don't want to be near that person because, look, they're going to get fired. You don't want to be like Lawrence Fox, guys, because he just got fired.
Yeah, because he's a prick.
You get the other presenters. So if I give the LBC example, you get the other presenters to say, well, if I'm on leave, I'm not having Katie stand in on my show. Or until she's gone, I'm not prepared to do X, Y, and Z. Or you just get them all together to have a meeting with the boss that says she needs to go because we're all unhappy. So you can mobilise that as an opportunity as well. And that will be at play in GB News where people get picked off. And there's something much bigger that happens, and it's what I would call the real darkness. At some point, the cumulative effect of all of this is it starts to become too much. And at some point, and this has happened in every single case of every single position I've ever held and been eviscerated from, the darkness happens. And that's one big, powerful phone call or meeting between either overseas money, whoever is the funder or the investment or the big money, the darkness, whoever is the real powerhouse in that place. They get the call and they make a decision just like this. That's it, they're gone, done. So all of this other stuff is really just, chipping away, noise, relentless, in order to get this one phone call to happen. And in my case, for example, LBC, that was the owner of the whole radio of Global, who finally made the call and went, she's gone. The Daily Mail, Lord Rothermere was involved, and actually there was someone that leaked that. There's an inside person at the Daily Mail that leaked that
somebody fired you.
The conversation had happened and I was being disposed of, so I knew 6 months before I was actually let go or agreed to leave. And in the case of GB News, that's when will that happen? To overseas investors, because ultimately GB News doesn't really care. It's overseas investment money that's funding this thing. One day that tap gets turned off. And a good example most recently would be the Piers Morgan example. Talk TV, Murdoch, and Murdoch has been, Piers and Murdoch are inseparable, have been for decades. Finally, that darkness was too much. Even for Murdoch and Piers Morgan, and that conversation happened.
You were not profitable anymore. Capitalism.
Specifically named Piers Morgan as being responsible or culpable. I know what happened. There'll have been a phone call from Murdoch to Piers just saying, sorry mate, it's all too much now, we've got to let you go. So that's why Piers Morgan is now going to be a vlogger. And I would say, typically, I get no pleasure whatsoever from seeing other people being either cancelled or eviscerated or removed. There's, maybe a little bit of pleasure with Piers Morgan, but for everybody else, whether I'm on their side or not, whether they're a vaccine pusher or whatever, there's no pleasure in seeing other people get cancelled or eviscerated because I think, it doesn't improve the sum of all of our parts if conversations get fewer and less. Now, there's apart from the darkness, so that's a Murdoch level, that's a Lord Rothermere level, that is at the darkness level of humanity, big overseas investment funders. There's also these other sort of minor players. So like, for example, in my case, the chief rabbi was involved. You get the heads of churches, you get the heads of some charities, Save the Children, Brendan Cox. There's some other things around this darkness, which I could go into, but we don't need to do that here. One of the most painful things of all about cancel culture or it being eviscerated, and this is all building around GB News right now. One of the hardest things, and I still find this now, it happened to me just this week, is you have people see all of this happen around you, and it's happened all my life really since I refused to back down from anything I've ever said, is that people who call themselves the freedom movement, right? So
Oh shit! I hope Tara's still there. This is gonna be interesting because what has she got? What kind of shots has she got for the freedom movement?
people who are like, oh, we're the free speech movement, we're the free speech organisation, we're the free speech channel, or we're a freedom festival, or so
Oh shit! No, I got what is she saying here? She even knows, even though she's not addressing that she got dropped from a festival this week. That's gotta be Sly Shots. We're a freedom festival. That's crazy, yo. Pulling this whole segment up.
life really, since I refused to back down from anything I've ever said, is that people who call themselves the freedom movement, right? So people who are like, oh, we're the free speech movement, we're the free speech organisation, we're the free speech channel, or we're a freedom festival, or so all of the people who I would say are our side that simply wants everyone to be okay, everyone to say and think whatever they want, and everyone to be as happy as they can be, is when the freedom movement, using that label, using free speech, they don't want any of this coming anywhere near them.
Oh, they don't.
And it's one of the hardest things still. And like I say, it happened this week, is people take you on because they love what they do. Maybe they've met you in person. Maybe you've introduced them to your husband, or maybe you've allowed them to come to a gig and they've seen your audiences and they've seen how lovely it all is. But the moment they feel even a touch of any of this, you know, just maybe one other and one other guest saying, well, I'm not performing if she's performing, or if her name's there, or I get asked,
pull up. I didn't even think this video was going to be about us, you know. I didn't think this video was going to be about us. And then she fully goes into it. You know what I'm saying? Another guest said he's not performing. It happened this week. She didn't. It's like she don't want to give it that light. She started this about GB News to make it not about this thing. Wow. But it's definitely about this thing. I'm pulling it up a little piece.
coming anywhere near them. And it's one of the hardest things still. And like I say, it happened this week. Is people take you on because they love what they do. Maybe they've met you in person. Maybe you've introduced them to your husband, or maybe you've allowed them to come.
Imagine this though. You see what she's saying? Maybe you've met them in person. Maybe they've introduced you to your husband. Is she talking about you, Wendy Jane? Have you met Katie Hopkins' husband, Wendy Jane, or one of you lot from the Sounds Racist Festival 2024?
To a gig and they've seen your audiences and they've seen how lovely it all is. But the moment they feel even a touch of any of this, you know, just maybe one other and one other guest saying, well, I'm not performing if she's performing, or if her name's there, or I get asked, is there anyone you won't perform with? And I'm like, why are you asking that question?
Wait a minute though. Why didn't they ask anyone else at the festival if there's anyone else you won't perform with? Will you perform with Katie Hopkins? Do you know about her views? They didn't do any of that to all of the rappers at the festival.
And others out there will completely understand when I say it is what all of this I see happening. I see the strategy behind it. You know, I used to be in military intelligence. It's not hard to work this stuff out, and the darkness is really terrifying. But the hardest thing emotionally is when those who brand themselves free speech and freedom festival, they do this to you because they don't want this near them. They will throw you under the bus, even after they've booked you and they want you and they come to your gigs and they see what you're doing and they know that you're, even when they know you and they know that your heart is good, they still throw you under the bus and continue to use the freedom banner even when they become part of the evisceration. And that's true.
Do you know what, Katie Hopkins? You're fully right. Yeah, they threw you under the bus. And yeah, fuck them. They are still using the banner. They are still driving with the same, using the same driving force of racism and all of your bigotry. Yeah. And now I understand why you're taking shots at them and you don't want to take shots at me. This is hilarious. But I guess she's saying I am, and Tara and we are, and Ryan Sanders is, all of the other, this whole picture she tried to paint. She tried to get real clever on us.
Really, the very hardest thing of all. And I say all of this knowing what I've just said about how people don't want you near them because they want to self-preserve for one more day, even when they say that they're all about freedom of speech, but let's just not talk about Tommy or Katie, is that I am banned from GB News by these guys, the big guys, the money, the investors, the owners, those links to the kind of money, 250 million in their account. Some of these guys behind GB News, the very big money doesn't want any of this problem coming anywhere near it. So I just wanted to do that as an explainer because there's so many, I could do pages of level of detail behind this. But if you hear Ofcom investigation, please know that that's just a tiny piece of an overall strategic plan of attack that can be used to completely annihilate your enemy, which in my case was me, or is now GB News for them.
Boom.
I guess
it was you this week.
And what they can never quite cope with still, the darkness, I mean, is when some of us refuse to stay down. When you come back after you've been eviscerated, when you were supposed to go and swing from a tree, and instead you just
we don't expect that
and come back again.
Yeah, someone already said that in the comment.
I think in the end. Okay, I'll see you all somewhere on the road.
Yeah, but not at the Sounds Racist Fest 2024 because you got dropped. I can't believe it. I'm slightly in shock. I just put that video on. I know what we did is kind of a big deal, but I didn't expect her to make a response. I was watching that video just because it's random relevant content to what we've been talking about, and she's quite blatantly responded to us. That's fucking wild.